Commander Stala stretched out his long, pale arms and let himself feel the soft, steady hum of his ship's living hull beneath his feet. The devouring light, a biocruiser grown, not built, throbbed gently as it drifted through the black. Its organic engines breathed in the cosmic radiation like air, converting starlight into graceful momentum. Around the flagship, 11 other ships of the Hijgemany fleet cruised in formation, gliding like a synchronized school of alien predators. Their hulls glistened with the unmistakable sheen of living tissue, sleek and pulsing with faint bioluminescence. Another empty sector, muttered Sub-Commander Krelix, seated at the nerve cluster that functioned as their command station. His 6 eyes blinked slowly, each reflecting boredom as he scanned the biosensors. 3 full cycles with no contact. The rim worlds are growing silent. Stala nodded, his mandibles clicking together with a quiet, irritated rhythm. For over 3,000 years, the Hijgemany had ruled this part of the galaxy. Their ships, crafted through gene forging and grown from war organism seeds, were nightmares made flesh. They weren't just machines, they were living predators designed for war. Just the sight of a Hijgemany fleet used to be enough to make entire star systems surrender. No need for battles. No need for threats. The image of their biocruisers swimming through space like monsters out of mythology had done the work. But lately, things had changed. The outer rim had become eerily quiet. Too many planets had already submitted. Too many species had learned that resistance was pointless. Stala missed the days when someone, anyone, had the courage to fight back. Then came a voice that pulled him out of his brooding. "Commander," Krelix said again, this time with a spark of interest, something unusual. "Grid 77 Alpha." Stala stepped toward the viewing membrane, a transparent part of the ship's hull that focused like an eye. Stars twisted in the lens as devouring light turned toward the new coordinates. For a moment, there was nothing. Just distant points of starlight. Then, the sensors pinged. And there it was. Stala's breath caught in his thorax. By the void. What is that thing? Floating ahead was an object so massive it dwarfed even their largest biocruiser. But it wasn't like their ships. Not even close. Where Hijgemany vessels were all flowing lines, curving shells, and glowing organs, this thing was all hard edges. It looked like a jagged mountain, plated in layers of alloy and bristling with what appeared to be weapon ports. "It appears artificial," Krelix reported, his voice uncertain. "But the construction methods are unknown. No biological components detected. Entire structure is non-organic. Completely synthetic." Stala felt a chill crawl through his carapace. "It's dead. That large, and entirely lifeless. Nothing made sense. No living tissue, no pulse, no organic signatures, yet the object moved deliberately. Controlled. Coordinated. Like a corpse with a will. A corpse with a mission." Cut to, roughly 3,000 kilometers away, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Dakota, eyes locked on a tactical display. The ship, one of humanity's newest dreadnoughts, hummed with quiet power. Fusion reactors churned deep in its core. Systems ran like clockwork. Every beep, every flicker, every pulse of data was a testament to precision engineering. "Captain," called Lieutenant Amy Foster at the tactical station. "We've got 12 incoming contacts. Unknown class. They're not matching anything in our database." Morrison gave a small nod, his weathered face unreadable. At 52, he was a career officer, 3 decades of duty across pirate sectors, civil conflicts, and deep space patrols. But this was different. This was first contact. "How far out?" he asked. 4,000 kilometers. They're heading straight for us. No sign they're trying to avoid detection. He narrowed his eyes as the sensor feed updated. Alien ships bloomed onto the screen, each one smooth and strange, like glowing sea creatures swimming through the void. Beautiful. Deadly. Sir, said Communications Officer Lisa Park, picking up energy buildups. Looks like weapon systems. Can't tell what kind, but it's definitely combat grade. Morrison stayed calm. He'd seen enough fights to know when the other side was serious. Amy, he asked. Lieutenant Foster responded immediately. 12 ships. Each roughly 400 meters. Energy signatures suggest bioorganic construction. Weapons likely plasma or particle-based. No kinetic launchers detected. No kinetics. Morrison raised an eyebrow. None at all. None, sir. Not a single rail gun or missile tube. It's like they skipped straight past Newtonian warfare. He frowned. Any civilization advanced enough for space travel usually relied on kinetic weapons. They were simple. Brutal. Effective. Engineering, he said over the comms. How are we looking? All systems green, replied Chief Pete Collins. Reactors nominal. Armor charged. Point defense online. Dakota's ready for anything, Captain. Morrison gave a tight smile. The Dakota was humanity's pride. A fortress in space, built for exactly this kind of moment. Sir, Amy reported, they're slowing. Could be preparing to communicate. Or lining up their shots. Either way, Morrison replied, we'll be ready. Lisa, open a channel if they try to speak. Amy, keep our weapons hot, but don't target them yet. Let's see what they're here for. As the two fleets drew closer, they couldn't have looked more different. The Hijgemany biocruisers moved like a hunting pack. Curving and twisting with eerie elegance, their hulls glowing with shifting patterns that pulsed like predator eyes in the dark. They were alive in every sense of the word. Grown for war. Bred to kill. The USS Dakota, by contrast, was a steel leviathan. It moved with cold, calculated purpose. Every system optimized. Every defense precisely calibrated. It was not grown. It was not elegant. But it was powerful in a way that nothing organic could match. Commander Thala stared at the human vessel as it loomed larger on their scanners. He felt something strange. Something unfamiliar. Uncertainty. The ship didn't follow any known design. It was too large. Too heavily armored. Too purpose-built. Commander, Krellick said softly. Perhaps, we should call for reinforcements. Thala let out a dry click that passed for laughter. 12 biocruisers against one alien vessel. What kind of commander would I be if I needed backup for that? But even as he spoke, something in the deepest part of his mind, something ancient, whispered a warning. This wasn't going to be like the others. The two forces continued their slow convergence, one fleet sleek, luminous, and alive, the other a massive monument to human engineering and tactical precision. Commander Thala gave a signal, and the Hijgemany ships began to maneuver into their standard attack formation. It was a practiced, ritualistic display, a swirling dance of intimidation, perfected over millennia. The 12 biocruisers moved like a hunting pack circling prey. Their hulls shimmered with menacing bioluminescent signals, stories of past conquests told in living light. Weapon organisms activated, hidden ports unfolding like the petals of deadly alien flowers. Weapon systems online, Krellick reported with excitement. Acid pods primed. Plasma feeders active. Viral spores ready for dispersal. Each biocruiser was a floating arsenal. They didn't just fire weapons, they unleashed them. Corrosive organisms that could eat through metal, spores that infected and corrupted enemy systems, living projectiles that adapted mid-flight. No known material had ever truly withstood them. Begin approach, Thala ordered. Standard sequence. Let them witness what stands before them. The biocruiser spiraled inward, closing like a tightening net. On board the Dakota, Captain Morrison watched them approach, analyzing every move. "Interesting formation," he said aloud. "They've done this before." Lieutenant Amy Foster nodded. "Definitely a standard tactic. Looks like they're trying to surround us." "Let them," Morrison said calmly. Lisa Park, watching her comms display, shook her head. "No attempt at external communication yet, sir. But I'm picking up a flurry of internal signals, probably talking to each other." Morrison studied the approaching ships. He saw it clearly now, the fatal flaw in their tactic. They were expecting their target to stay put. To watch. To panic. To submit. He wasn't going to do any of that. "Amy," he said, "rotate the Dakota to face them. Let's give them a good look at what they're dealing with." "Aye, sir." The giant warship began to rotate. Not with speed, but with purpose. Deliberate. Cold. Like a castle choosing which wall to raise against the invaders. As it turned, the Hijgemany fleet saw the Dakota's full profile for the first time, and everything changed. The alien biocruisers slowed. And stared. The Dakota was colossal. Dwarfing even their largest ship. But it wasn't just the size. It was what covered it. Weapons. So many weapons. Missile launchers by the dozens. Point defense lasers lining every surface. And rail guns, massive, building-sized turrets that tracked silently as the ship moved, each one aimed with surgical precision. 12 alien vessels. 12 weapon systems. Every single one of them locked onto a separate target. "By the void," Krelix whispered. "They've locked all of us." Simultaneously. Stella stared at the tactical display. The targeting overlay was incomprehensibly accurate. It wasn't just close. It was perfect. Every rail gun aimed dead center. Every missile launcher lined up with maximum efficiency. Every energy weapon calculated to strike at the weakest possible point. This level of coordination was unheard of. Not even their most advanced biocomputers could compute that fast. "How?" Stella whispered. "How can a single ship track 12 targets with such precision?" Back on the Dakota, Lieutenant Foster reported with steady calm, "All targets locked, sir. Firing solutions calculated and updating in real time. They've stopped moving." Morrison nodded. "I've seen that look before." He didn't need to look at the display to know what the aliens were thinking. They were paralyzed. "Engineering," Morrison called. "Power status?" Chief Collins replied immediately, "All systems nominal. Reactors barely breathing. We could keep this up for weeks." The computers aboard the Dakota were barely breaking a sweat. Quantum processors, integrated AIs, calculating thousands of possibilities every second. While the Hijgemany's organic tech lagged behind, adapting slowly, still trying to understand what they were looking at, the Dakota was already prepared for their next 100 moves. The biocruisers didn't move. Didn't twitch. Caught like prey in a spider's web. For the first time in 3,000 years, a full Hijgemany fleet had been neutralized without a shot fired, held in place by sheer technological superiority. "Commander," came a voice over Stella's internal channel. One of the sub-commanders. "What are your orders?" He stared at the glowing lines on the screen. What were his orders? There was no page in the manual for this. No protocol for encountering an enemy faster, smarter, and better armed than you. On the Dakota, Morrison waited. He let the silence hang. Let it press against the aliens like gravity. After long, tense minutes, he broke it. "Lisa," he said. "Open a channel. Broadcast to all 12 ships." She nodded. "Channel open, Captain." Morrison stepped forward. He wasn't an imposing man, just a human in his 50s, silver-haired, steady-eyed. No ornate uniform. No pomp. But as his image appeared on every screen in the Hijgemany fleet, his words hit like a rail gun. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Colonial Navy," he said, voice calm, measured. "You are in human space. State your intentions." On the bio-cruisers, the alien officers froze. Never in 3,000 years had anyone asked the Hijgemany what they were doing in a system. No one questioned them. They were the Hijgemany. Their arrival was explanation enough. Stella stared at the human on screen, speechless. "Krelix," he said quietly, "how do we even respond to a question like that?" The sub-commander blinked all 6 of his eyes. "I don't know, Commander. We've never needed to explain ourselves before." Still, they had to say something. Stella straightened, activated his own communication system, and spoke with all the weight of his species' legacy. "I am Commander Stella of the Hijgemany fleet. We are the masters of this sector. You will surrender your vessel and submit to our authority." On board the Dakota, a few officers raised eyebrows. Amy Foster actually smirked. Morrison didn't flinch. "I see," he said, tone unchanged. "And if we decline your offer?" Stella faltered. "That wasn't in the script." "Then," he said, struggling to recover, "then you will be destroyed." "Understood," Morrison replied, as if he'd just confirmed the day's weather forecast. "Lisa, close the channel." The transmission ended. Silence returned. And on the alien bridge, Krelix leaned in and whispered, he didn't seem concerned. Stella remained still. No. The human didn't just seem unconcerned. He seemed annoyed. That realization stung worse than any wound. But orders were orders. Honor demanded follow-through. "Begin the attack," Stella commanded. "Deploy spores. Ready acid pods." The bio-cruisers moved like angry predators, opening their weapon ports and launching clouds of glowing bioweapons. The most feared arsenal in the galaxy. Millions of microscopic spores surged into the void, living weapons that devoured anything they touched, reproducing as they went. Whole fleets had vanished under their hunger. But this time was different. "Captain," Chief Collins reported, "we're detecting incoming biological material. Microscopic organisms. Looks aggressive. Point defenses?" Morrison asked. "Already online, sir." Then the Dakota's defensive grid activated. Dozens, no, hundreds, of laser arrays emerged from ports all over the ship. They fired. Not in beams, but in pulses. Microsecond flashes, pinpoint accuracy. To the human eye, it looked like a starlight show. To the spores, it was extinction. The lasers pulsed at frequencies calculated in real time to destabilize the spores at the molecular level. The targeting algorithms adapted with every millisecond, refining their aim and precision. In less than 30 seconds, every single spore had been vaporized. Gone. Reduced to inert dust. "What?" Krelix gasped. "That's impossible. The spores can't be stopped. They've eaten through everything." Stella was silent. The humans weren't using shielding. They weren't using organic armor. They were using materials the Hijgemany didn't even have names for. On the Dakota, Chief Collins gave the all-clear. "Threat neutralized, Captain. No hull contact." Defense grid worked like a charm. Morrison looked at the empty space where the spores had been. He spoke quietly. Calmly. But the words were transmitted, accidentally or not, through the still-open monitoring channels. Was that supposed to be an attack? And just like that, the Hijgemany's most feared weapon had become a joke. Commander Stella sat frozen, unable to speak. Around him, the other biocruisers hovered in silence, each commander stunned into inaction. Their most devastating weapon had just been dismissed. The human warship hadn't even broken a sweat. No shields breached. No systems strained. Just a casual light show, and then a captain asking if it counted as an attack. Stella had never felt so completely outmatched. These humans didn't just have superior weapons. They thought differently. Fought differently. They were operating on an entirely different level. Still, pride demanded a response. He activated the comms again, forcing his voice to sound composed. "Human vessel," he said, "you have seen only a fraction of our power. Surrender now, and your deaths will be swift." Back on the Dakota, Morrison didn't even glance at the transmission. "Lisa," he said, "we recording all this?" "Yes, sir. Full comm logs, internal and external." "Good," Morrison replied. "Command's going to want a detailed report." The offhand comment, meant for his own crew, was still being broadcast to the Hijgemany fleet. And it landed like a hammer. They weren't treating this as a battle. They were treating it as paperwork. Lieutenant Foster's voice followed, "Captain, based on formation and weapon patterns, these look like patrol ships. Tactics focus on bioweapons and energy-based attacks. I'd say our kinetic defenses are completely effective." On the alien bridges, those words sent shockwaves. She had analyzed their entire fleet within minutes. And already deemed them ineffective. "Commander," Krelix whispered, "they understand us. Better than we understand ourselves." "This can't be," Stella murmured. "We are the only major force in this region. They can't have fought anyone like us before." On the Dakota, Lisa looked up. "Captain, I'm intercepting their internal communications. No encryption. Shall I translate?" Morrison nodded. "Put it on speaker. Let's see what they're thinking." Alien voices filled the bridge, translated in real time. "How many ships do they have? This can't be their full fleet. No species sends only one vessel to face the Hijgemany." Lieutenant Foster blinked. "They think we're the forward scout of a larger force." Morrison raised an eyebrow. "Interesting." It meant the aliens weren't just afraid. They were reassessing. "Chief," Morrison said, "what's the status on our new weapon systems?" Command wanted field test data. "All systems green, Captain," Collins replied cheerfully. "Rail guns are running smooth. Reactors steady. We could maintain readiness for weeks." The open channel ensured every alien ship heard that reply. To them, it sounded like this wasn't even a real mission. Just a trial run. A weapons test. Stella was unraveling. They had brought 12 ships, conquerors of dozens of worlds. And the humans were disappointed. "Lisa," Morrison continued, "send a message to Admiral Chen. Tell her we've made contact. Local threat minimal. Request instructions for next phase of exploration." The phrase Admiral Chen spread through the alien fleet like wildfire. There was an admiral. Which meant there was a fleet. This wasn't humanity's strongest ship. It wasn't their only one. It was just a piece of something larger. "How many do they have?" Krelix breathed. If this is a patrol ship, Stella had no answer. Human admirals didn't command one ship. They commanded dozens. Hundreds. And if this Dakota was merely a scout, then the true scope of the human fleet was unimaginable. "Captain," came a new voice from the Dakota's sensor bay, "this is Ensign Kelly in analysis. I'm reading interesting patterns in their power output, definitely biological. Fascinating tech. I've never seen anything like it. Copy that, Kelly. Add it to your report. The science team's gonna love this." The word science team hit the aliens harder than any weapon. The humans weren't just warriors. They were curious. They were learning. Their ship wasn't here to fight, it was here to observe. Study. Understand. Sir, said Amy, I think they're preparing another attack. Energy readings are climbing. Morrison let out a sigh, just a normal, annoyed sigh. Well, I guess they have to try. Probably in the handbook. He turned to the display. Amy, defensive grid online. I don't want to explain battle damage to the repair crews. On the alien ships, that line echoed like thunder. They weren't worried about casualties. They were worried about repairs. That's what the Hijgemany had become to them. An inconvenience. Stella stared at the screen, heart sinking. He had thought he was dealing with a rival. Instead, he was dealing with something far worse, an apex species. Hold all ships, he said on a secure fleet-wide channel. Do not attack. We need to reassess. But in his mind, he already knew the truth. There was no reassessment that could change this. The humans had surpassed them, not just in firepower, but in every possible way. And then, Morrison made the next move. Amy, he said, what's their current status? Still in formation, sir. But no weapons charging. They're watching us. Waiting. Morrison nodded. Good. That's a start. Lisa, open a channel. A moment later, his face reappeared across the alien fleet. Commander Stella, he began, casually, I've been thinking about your situation. You came expecting empty space. Found us instead. I imagine that complicates things for your mission. The Hijgemany officers tensed. No one had ever spoken to them this way. No fear. No hostility. Just, analysis. What do you propose, human? Stella asked. Morrison smiled. A calm, knowing smile. Here's what's going to happen, he said. You're going to return to your superiors. Tell them this sector belongs to humanity now. Any Hijgemany ships found here after 72 hours will be destroyed without warning. This isn't a negotiation. The words cracked across the stars like thunder. An ultimatum. No one gave them ultimatums. We are the Hijgemany, Stella shot back, clinging to pride. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Our fleets number in the hundreds. You cannot stand against us. Morrison didn't hesitate. Then you should recognize what conquest looks like. And with that, he gave the signal. Chief, he said. Let's give them a demonstration. Deep inside the Dakota, the main rail gun powered up. The ship vibrated softly, space itself humming as the weapon charged. Hijgemany sensors went haywire, energy levels off the charts. The aliens felt the build-up through their living hulls. 30 seconds of rising dread. Then, fire. A tungsten slug, several tons in weight, ripped out of the barrel at a fraction of light speed. It crossed the void in a blur, heading straight for a distant asteroid. On impact, the rock simply ceased to exist. No explosion. Just pure, kinetic annihilation. A flash of light. A glowing cloud. Then nothing. The asteroid, kilometers across, was gone. Kinetic energy, Morrison said, turning to face the stunned alien commanders. We find it very reliable. That broke them. All of them. Commander Stella stood speechless. Their entire concept of warfare, shattered by a simple slug of metal. Commander, Krelix whispered, we must withdraw. We cannot win this. And for the first time, Stella didn't argue. He sent the order. All ships, retreat. Now. But he wasn't done. He opened a final channel. Human captain, he said, voice heavy with defeat. Your message will be delivered. Morrison nodded. I thought it might be. Then, just before the alien fleet jumped away, Morrison sent one last transmission. "Oh, and Commander," he said. "When you talk to your superiors, let them know something important. This is just a patrol ship. We have much bigger ones." And with that, the transmission ended. 12 alien biocruisers fled back to their homeworlds, their confidence broken, their legacy shattered. Behind them, the USS Dakota remained in orbit, quiet and calm. Its weapons locked. Its systems ready. Its crew already returning to patrol routines. They had just shifted the balance of power in the galaxy. And for them, it was just another Tuesday.